Hello, Angela Barnard. Welcome. I'm so happy to talk to you.
Thanks, Melissa. It's lovely to join you today and all your viewers.
Wonderful. Would you like to begin by telling us about yourself for the people who are not familiar with you and your life? Let us get to know you a little bit.
Okay, I will try and make this brief because I do love telling people about myself. So, my name's Angela. I go by Angie to most people that know and like me. Other people have called me other things at other times. I'm South African. I'm based in Germany. I'm a life coach. I'm also a speaker and an author. And I've had a relatively interesting and varied life. Um, had the opportunity to have a very, very specialized corporate career. I used to be a flavorist, which means that I was involved in creating some iconic food flavors that go into some iconic brands. And that opportunity, that career gave me an opportunity to live and work all over the world. And but as it would be, sometimes when you are doing something that is successful in one area, you don't always necessarily feel successful in other areas, or you don't always feel fulfilled. And that was the case for me. So I started making some relatively large changes about 10 years ago. And I didn't always jump straight into them, but I think we'll talk more about that in more detail. But yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I'm working with people on a one-to-one basis to really know themselves and step into who they are and create lives that they actually enjoy living.
Okay, and what were the clues for you when you were in your corporate role and in a different life that things needed to change? How did you know?
I think for me, this goes back way back when, after I graduated from high school, I actually wanted to have a different career. I wanted to go into social work, and I needed to actually get a scholarship because my parents couldn't afford to send me to the university that I wanted. And you know how it is, Melissa, in order to get a scholarship, you need to have certain grades, And I was quite a lazy lout in high school. And I never got the grades that I needed to get the scholarship, and I couldn't go and study social work as I wanted. And I quite literally spent 3 weeks in the heat of summer, lying in my bed, covered totally in blankets, crying all day long, until my mother came and kicked me out of bed and said, make a choice, choose something, do something. I'm not, sponsoring you to lie in bed and cry for the rest of your life. And I made a totally different choice. I decided to go and study food sciences. And I mean, food sciences is so far away from social sciences, And this is then how my life started taking on this path of getting into the flavor industry and stuff like that. So I always essentially had the desire to work with people. In my corporate career and in my life in general, I was always working with people on some level, either in charity work or in church work or in my leadership roles that I had in companies. But it wasn't focused, it wasn't dedicated to working with clients one-on-one. And what I actually came to realize was that my life needed to go through so many wonderful twists and turns to prepare me and to ripen me for the types of people that I would be working with today. I mean, I think about it, if I'd gone straight out of school into social work, at that time in my life, I wanted to save the world. I was a bit of a bleeding heart, and I wasn't ready for what was to come. If I think about it honestly, I think there's a potential that I might have landed up as, alcoholic or dependent on some other sort of substance, because perhaps I couldn't cope with dealing with the traumas that you deal with as such as a social worker. So I had this sense of I should be doing something else always, and I had the sense of, well, I've chosen this career, I've got to stick to it. This has been my choice, I need to see it through. And what also happens when you get to a specific stage in your life where you've created a lifestyle for yourself. In my case, I was a specialist. So that meant that I was highly remunerated, etc. you're not so keen just to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, oh, here I go, I'm going to go and try something new, or I'm going to, toddle and do whatever. And so for me, what I've done, what I've found in my life is that I've always made these grand statements. I'm going to do this without any idea of what the hell I'm actually about to do. But these statements have often been a signal for what's to come. And it's almost as if I'm the oracle in my own life. I'm preparing the way, so to speak, And this is what happened. I had a career that gave me everything, but I just was not fulfilled. I constantly had this feeling like there has to be more, there has to be more, there has to be more. And it wasn't until I was, literally thrown into the situation of going to discover what was more that I actually started making choices for myself that led me to where I am now.
And what were those choices? What were some of those choices?
Well, in 2006, for example, I worked for an international company, the third largest flavor house in the world. And their headquarters is based in this town where I'm living now in Germany. And I came to Germany on a business trip with two other colleagues that were also in senior management positions. And I was given the enviable task of having to downsize my team in South Africa. And just before this trip, I woke up one morning and I made one of these statements, and it literally came out of nowhere. And the statement was, I'm going to be a life coach. And when I said this to people that knew me, their response was, what the hell are you talking about? What is that? And at that time, I'd never been coached. I knew no coaches. I had no idea what coaching was. And yet here I was making this statement, And so when they told me that I needed to downsize the team, I thought, well, I'm going to be a life coach, so I don't want to work for you anymore. So and when I asked for the justification, I said, why do I need to downsize the team? The answer was cost to company and headcount. And I thought, well, I'm the leader of the team, therefore I'm the highest cost to company. So I said to them, well, get rid of me. And there's people in the team that still have a really good career ahead of them. And, and I think that took them by surprise. They weren't expecting that answer. And so then the question started to come at me, would you be prepared to be transferred somewhere else in the world? And it was really like, yeah, okay, what the hell? I will, why not? Change is as good as a holiday type of thing. And I like change generally. So I took the opportunity to be transferred, and then after a few months of being in Germany, I was transferred to Singapore for a year. And the whole time having this feeling in my head, I said I'm going to become a life coach, because when you've got a big mouth and you make these grand statements, so it's like, well, where's the proof? What the hell are you doing in Singapore? You're supposed to be a life coach, And one morning I woke up and I literally sat on my bed and I opened the Singapore Times, and there was a full-paged advertisement from one of the world's leading coaching schools. Would you like to become a life coach? Come and find out more about life coaching. And they were having an information evening, and I was like, well, I'd be an idiot not to go, right? So I went along, listened to what they had to say, and decided to invest in myself. So the year that I was in Singapore, I concurrently studied and did my life coach training. And again, I asked to be transferred back to Germany because just before I was sent off to Singapore, I started a new relationship with a German person. So it was a year of great drama and, long distance relationships. You know how it is, how we create drama for ourselves. And I was transferred permanently back to Germany. And okay, so what do I do now? I still wasn't happy in my job. And then it made it worse that this time around I was being paid in euros. So, I was earning even more money than before. So it's like, how do you give this up, And after a few years of working for the company, my partner kept on saying to me, I don't care what you do, just do something to make yourself happy. And I decided to change careers. Well, not change careers. I decided to move to opposition and go and work for an opposition company. And everything looked wonderful on the surface at this company, but it was actually quite a sick company. Management was not very healthy. And I experienced workplace bullying. And the honest truth is, Melissa, and everybody that's watching, I experienced a year and a half of really, really, really loving my job, because it was such a challenge, and I was doing new things, and I was, growing a team and growing the business with the team, etc., etc. But in retrospect, I realize now is that if things never turned out the way that they did, after a while, I would have been back at the same place, namely being unhappy within myself and being happy within my job, because I wasn't facing key elements about myself. I wasn't listening to, key things about myself and following through on them. So, when in this work situation, I was experiencing workplace bullying, and I got very sick from it. And
Did you say
from
bullying? Workplace?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and the worst thing about all of that was that I couldn't, in that experience, I couldn't access myself. I didn't know, I just couldn't access myself. I felt broken. I felt totally disconnected from everything. And in fact, at one stage, I would quite literally sit on the sofa and drool on myself. And thank goodness here in Germany, we have an incredibly good healthcare system. So there's unlimited sick leave when people do get ill. So I never had that pressure of having to work to support myself, But the worst thing was I couldn't access myself and feel like I'm a strong person. I'm a powerful woman. I've done incredible things in my life, and yet here I am sitting and dreaming on myself and thinking the only way out of this pain and out of this solution, out of this situation, is perhaps to walk to the end of the road and stand on the train tracks. And when I'm experiencing a really, really difficult situation, I'm somebody who goes within myself. I don't necessarily speak about it. I always try and sort the problem out within myself. And so nobody around me, although I had an incredible support system around me, nobody around me knew what was actually going on in my head, or how desperate I was, or how broken I felt. And so it was, in this situation, and the whole time thinking, that you can fix this, that you can access, why can't you access yourself, It wasn't until I started actually feeling anger about the situation, and feeling the anger then turned into rage. And my partner and I were actually, we were on a trip to Amsterdam the weekend that happened, and this has been going on for months. And I started to feel anger, and by the time we got back home on the train, I was like throwing my middle finger in the air and effing this and effing that and effing everybody. And when it got to that stage, it was like, I'd already, F you to like the 7th generation, like coming down the track. And I was like, I made another strong decision, and it was, I'm not going back to that place. I'm not going to allow myself to be treated like this. I'm not going to participate in this abuse any longer. I am done. And I literally went back to work the next day, and I packed all my stuff together and I left, and I never went back. And luckily, they came and they offered me a settlement package, which was very generous. I think it was more like blood money than anything else, the guilty conscience. And so with those things, I was like, okay, now what do I do? What do I do? I've got, unlimited funds for the next while, quite a long while. And what am I going to do? Am I going to jump back into another job? Am I going to continue the cycle of, being highly qualified, being able to do good work, but not actually feeling fulfilled, not having that feeling of, let's jump out of bed and go and do something meaningful with your life. And again, I followed what my spirit was telling me, what my heart was telling me. And at that time, it was go and visit your niece in Canada. So I got in an aeroplane and I went to visit my niece in Canada. And when I did that, I felt to myself, when I get to Canada, I'll know what the next step is that I need to take. And that's exactly what happened. So yeah, my life has a way of unfolding. You know, I make these grand statements and then stuff happens to support me in making it happen. So, yeah.
It's wonderful. So you transitioned to being a life coach at that point, I presume, and then how much later was it that you decided to take the walk on the Camino?
Well, that's the thing. You know, I was with my niece in Canada and she said to me, well, obviously she knew what had gone on. And she said to me, you know, she was taking me to the airport and she said, Angie, why is it that every time I said to you, let's go to the mall or let's go to the supermarket, you said, yeah, can we walk there? And my response was, I don't know, Bianca, I think I'm going to walk the Camino. And as God is my witness, Melissa, I was sitting there going, oh, you know, it was like, you know, and like really not believing what had just come out of my mouth, because in my conscious mind, there was no intention whatsoever to go and walk anywhere. Because I'm, you know, why must I walk when I can drive type of thing? I'm that kind of gal, you know. And I was like, what? And she said to me, what is that? And I said to her, I don't know, Bianca, Google it. So there she was, as her husband was driving us to the airport, Googling it. And she's like, are you frigging mad? And I was like, oh, yeah, what have I just said? And then I got on an aeroplane, flew back to Germany. And 2 days later, my partner and I went to the Italian Alps. And while she was dragging me up a frigging mountain, I started having a bit of a tantrum within myself. And the tantrum was something along the lines of, you know, if I can't get up this hill, how the hell am I going to get over the Pyrenees in France? And when she said to me, what are you talking about? I was like, you know, when you say something and you tell somebody about it and you're hoping that they're going to say, what? Are you mad? And this was kind of where I was coming from. I was like, oh, well, I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And then she's going to say to me, what? Are you mad? So I said, I don't know. I was thinking of walking the Camino. And she's like, oh, great. If you think you can do it, you can do it. Let's go and buy you some hiking boots and hiking clothes. Like, stop. No. You know, and you know what? I have to tell you this. And I know that this has been broadcast later, right? But today is the 18th of June, 2018. And it is exactly 4 years ago today that I started walking. And on this day, I went over the Pyrenees on my two fat little legs, which, you know, from the moment that I said to my niece in Canada to the moment that I started walking, it was less than a month. So there was no, it was like the madness of what I had said didn't actually filter down into my body, and didn't actually, my soul didn't allow me to do that, because I felt this compulsion to go. I felt I just got to go, and as I said, I'm not the type that would do such a mad thing to myself. But there I was, and you know, exactly 4 years ago today, I started this journey, and I just hoped that I could finish. There was so much going on. I mean, when you prepare for something like that, you're actually not prepared at all. And I felt that when I did that, I would then know what to do, and that's exactly what happened. So as I was walking, you know, lots of people, they walk in different ways, they process different things, and I remained very, very present with myself in that moment. And there was a mantra that I had in my head the whole time, and it was, with each step I was taking, was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I think that's what got me, you know, 900 kilometers across Spain, because if I allowed my monkey mind to step in and start thinking like, what the frigging hell are you doing to yourself? Are you insane? I would have given up, you know. But so yeah, so that's actually the period that I took in between, and it was while I was walking the Camino that I then became very clear that I was going to just frigging well do it. I remember the exact moment that I said to somebody, I'm going to start my own business. And it was two strangers from Boston. in a place called Osabrero. We were on top of a mountain and we were having dinner together. And I said to the lady, oh, yeah, I'm going to start my own coaching business. And she said, yeah, my brother, he also belonged to a cult in California. No, I'm not joining a cult. I'm starting my own coaching business. Although sometimes in the last 4 years, I have wondered if there are similarities.
Definitely.
Coaching and culting, But so yeah, and the thing for me was that I know, like, rooted within myself, is that if I could do something like that, which was so far beyond what I thought was possible, it is so my natural inclination. I've said it now 3 times. I have to repeat this. I'm not naturally inclined to suffering and walking unlimited distances for anything, So if I could do that, if I could listen to the calling of my heart and follow what felt like a compulsion to go, and I really felt like something was pushing me and something was pulling me. I had that very, very strong sense. And I remember before I left, about a week before I left, I set a goal with my coach. We were talking about it, and I almost felt embarrassed to tell her. It was one of those things that just came out of my mouth. And I was like, where the hell did that come from? And the goal that I set was that by the time I got to the other side, to Santiago, like that's the place that everybody hopes to reach, was that I would have finally accepted myself. And who sets a goal like that? I mean, how do you measure something like that? I mean, are you insane? It's like, is there an acceptance measurement somewhere where I would be able to, like, okay, tick, 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 I've accepted myself. But this is what I felt within myself was actually calling me. And that's exactly what I experienced. So do we create our own reality, or, do we then experience it through the journey that we're on? I think it's a mixture of both. But that was my very short story to a long answer to a short question.
So you do have a longer version of this story available. You wrote a book about your journey. What's
I
it
did.
called?
It's called, let me show you, it's called Letters from the Way. It's a story of self-discovery on the Camino. And what I was doing was every week as I was walking, because I never took any electronic things, I would write a letter to let everybody at home know that I was still alive. So I wrote a letter each week, and an ex-colleague of mine actually contacted me, and she said to me, Angie, yeah, I'm an atheist, but from what you've written has really made me think differently about God. And I was like, well, sweetie, I actually didn't write about God. I was just writing about myself. But, what I actually found was that the letters that I was writing seemed to really have an impact on the people that were reading them. And so the book evolved out of that. So the book is written in letter form, and it pretty much covers my journey up until last year sometime, when I finished the last letter. And yeah, it's a story. It's really a story of self-discovery. And the feedback that I've been getting from people that have been reading it is that it's not my story. They feel like it's also their story, because so many of the things that we experience in life we have common experiences in different ways, and we all struggle. We all go through moments of really having a dark night of the soul, or not knowing which way to turn, or feeling stuck, and I just kind of wrote it the way that it happened. And my editor said to me, don't you think there's some things you shouldn't say in the book? And I was like, well, it's true. So just this is my story. So I just shared it. And I think that's also what people have found so engaging, is that I told the truth about my life. And I'm prepared to face myself, warts and all. So yeah.
Wonderful. So tell us about your resulting coaching business and the clients you work with, and how you help them discover and move into their potential.
That in itself has been a journey. I've probably got another book that I could write about it. But my business is called Inspire for Life Coaching. And the thing is this, is what I help clients to do is to really embrace who they are and step into who they are and understand who they are first of all. I think I would essentially say that I'm a self-love coach, because this is the journey that I've been on with myself, and self-love, self-acceptance, returning to wholeness and healing. And this is what I help my clients do. So, a lot of people come to me and say, oh, I want to start a new job, or I want to get into a relationship, and, the whole thing of goal setting and, how you work with the coach. But essentially what happens every single time is that I help them to fully understand who they are. So both consciously, in terms of connecting with themselves very deeply, going on a journey of self-exploration, and also understanding who they are at soul level and stepping more into that and embracing who they are fully. So I love the work that I do, and most of all, I love the fact that I can guide and assist people. It's not about me, Melissa. It's about the people I work with. It's just, I see myself as a conduit, or as a guide, and they're the ones that create beautiful results for themselves. And I have the privilege of being with them, so that's a joy to me.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Can you give us an example of how somebody has really moved into a more full and meaningful life? Yeah, a mini case study.
The best testimonial I received was a year and a half ago. I was invited to one of my ex-clients' weddings, and she came to me because she was having problems at work. She was feeling like, is this it? There needs to be more. I've got a highly successful career, but it all just seems meaningless. What am I doing? Let me run off and feed the babies in Africa somewhere. You know how it is when we have these moments. And so we started working together, and we set 3 goals, and she set a goal that was almost like a by goal, I would say. Her goal was that I would learn to fully love and accept myself. Again, one of those strange kind of, you can't, there's no metrics for that. How do you measure that? And she met in the process of us working together and coaching together. She just blossomed and bloomed and stepped into herself in such an amazing way. And I just got to see this incredible woman emerging. I mean, I knew that she was incredible before that, but it was just like I saw more of that. She was really just stepping into the gap of that potential that surrounded her. And she was also just experiencing so much more confidence and self-awareness and stuff. And as would happen, as you fall more in love with yourself, you also create more love around you. And she attracted the most beautiful man to herself, and they got married. And then their wedding was in a beautiful, quaint little French town in some unpronounceable place. And we all stayed over for the wedding, and the next morning they had a wedding breakfast for all the guests that stayed over and came over for the wedding. And I was chatting to her, and her mother came up, and we were like blah, 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 blah in French. And I heard coach being said. That's the only word I understood. And then her mother turned to me, and she looked at me, and she said, "Thank you for creating such a transformation in my daughter. It's been incredible." And I was like, I didn't do anything. I didn't create this transformation in your daughter. Your daughter inhabited who she really is.
Mm.
So she stepped into that. But that for me was one of the most beautiful testimonials I received, because it was just, a mother who loves her child so much, seeing the incredible person that her child is just embodying and, blossoming and blooming. And she gave me the credit. It wasn't me. It was her daughter that did this incredible work on herself. As I said, I was just the one that was on the journey with her as a coach. So, yeah. And, the thing is this, and I was chatting with my coach about this the other day. I don't have a 5-step formula. I wish I did, I wish I had this formula that would go, if you just did this and you did this and you did this, and then voila, your life will be amazing. I don't
Sign me up.
Well, I don't. And this is the thing, is that, the people that work with me allow themselves to trust themselves and go on this journey of self-discovery. And that's really the beautiful thing. And it's like people will tell you, if you do this, if you do that, if you did rubbish. Everybody's life is different. We all created differently. We all have different soul makeups. We're all different, so we need to experience our own journey. So yeah, I don't have a formula. I'm sorry.
They don't work anyway,
Yeah, it does. It does. You just got to do the work.
Yeah.
So.
Have any new audacious statements come out of your mouth lately? What's your next big project?
Well, last year, I allowed this crazy German that I live with, and apparently who loves me, I allowed her to drag my ass off walking 100 kilometers in 2 days. I mean, who does this? Okay. So it was 50 kilometers per day, and we decided to raise money for charity for cancer, and it was brilliant because we raised over £2,500 with 2 other friends of ours. But the honest truth is, I hated every second of it, and so I would never do this. And we did this in June last year, actually around about a similar time to now. And my birthday was coming up. I turned 50. I know I look so young. It's not possible that I'm possibly 50, but I said, when she asked me what I wanted for my birthday, I said, I don't want anything to do with sport, okay? Do not give me anything to do with sport. So what did this woman do, Melissa? She went and gave me foldable walking sticks, high-performance socks, and an all-expense trip to walk the West Highland Way in Scotland, okay?
Oh, beautiful.
So anyway.
Oops, I lost you.
Choose to go in May this year.
Nice.
And I chose to go in October last year because I thought to myself, at least I won't be eaten alive by every bug that's alive. And the conditions were miserable. The honest truth is, if I'd walked the West Highland Way before I walked the Camino, there would have been no ways on earth that I ever would have done the Camino. So it was miserable, miserable, miserable. And we were walking in a Category 3 storm. It was perpetual rain, it was perpetual hail, it was perpetual wind, and I was just so miserable within myself. I was like, I cannot frigging believe I'm doing this. So I tried to escape to a happy place in my head. And as I escaped to this happy place in my head, I started thinking about when I walked the Camino, how I used to write letters every week. And I thought about, how my book was developing and what a joy it was for me to write the letters. And, I was just writing letters. I'd never necessarily received a letter. And so my mind went like that. And I thought, well, if an apple a day keeps the doctor away, what on earth would a letter a day do? And I thought to myself, well, I don't actually know 365 people that I could write to, but what if? So by the time we'd finished the West Highland Way, I declared that I'm going to write a letter a day in 2018. And I put that out into the world, and today is day, I don't know, 169. I think I've written about 178 letters.
Yay.
The reason being, and to be clear, these are handwritten posted letters, okay? So it's being done the old-fashioned way. And I put it out there on social media, and I actually had more than 365 people sign up. And so I was like, oh, drat. So that's why on some days I've written more than one letter. And by the end of the year, I think I'm going to have written 402 letters, because there's 402 people participating.
Lovely.
And this project has a feeling to me of the same feeling that the Camino had. It has a feeling of something that I feel compelled to complete, that I feel compelled to do. It's madness. I mean, who writes a letter a day? And it takes a lot of my time and my resources and stuff. But what's actually been incredible is whoever wanted to participate had to commit to writing back to me. So I've been receiving all of these replies and response, and it's the most beautiful thing. And what people are saying is that as I'm sharing my heart with them, they're just feeling such a connection with me and also with humanity in general. And it's just other projects that other people have just sprung up, and other people are doing knockoffs of this project. So it's beautiful. And so that's my big project for 2018. I'm writing a letter a day. So
Are you saving a copy for your next book?
what I do, although I haven't told anybody this, I scan the letters each day, which is actually quite good that I did this, because somebody sent me a message and it's like, I'm so distraught. Your letter came and the postman threw it outside my front door and all the ink got washed away. And, she's very like metaphysical, and she's like, oh, maybe this is the way the spirits wanted it to be. And, so she sent me a picture of these blank pieces of paper. I was like, well, never mind. I'll email you the scanned copy, which is what I do, So yeah, so I don't know, everybody said to me, I'm going to write it. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to finish this and see what comes out of it, and just see the connections that I'm creating, and that's the beautiful thing. I mean, I don't have to expect anything. I just have to show up each day and write a letter. So that's what I'm doing.
Beautiful practice. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up to the people watching this today? Or how they can find you also?
Yeah, I mean, I think Melissa's going to put my details up. You can find me on my website, inspireforlifecoaching.com. You can also find me on Facebook with the same Facebook page name. And I just want to encourage everybody that is watching this, because I know that this is about finding your purpose and stepping into it. Just go out there and live your lives, because sometimes we're looking for purpose and we're looking for something outside of ourselves, but actually that which we're looking for is actually inside of us already. And in order to access this, we have to make a choice, and then we have to follow up that choice by taking action. So I really encourage everybody that's watching this is to make powerful choices that bring you joy, and then go out and take actions that bring you joy, and live lives that you want to live, that feel like your own creation and not somebody else's, because that's what you have to do. Nobody else can do it for you but you.
Thank you, Angie. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thanks for joining us. Maybe we can do it again sometime.
Love to. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.